I made a video about Star Trek. Surprise! Just all the Trek is Trek Trav. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But let's get into this. This is a topic video. So I made a video about modern Star Trek and particularly TOS and how it fits within the canon of all of the shows, particularly the new ones. Should we remake TOS? And one comment I got said, well, Star Trek was good before they allowed degenerates and deplorables onto the Enterprise. Now, we all know what that means. And I see it a lot. It's not uncommon. Whenever I make a video about new Trek, there is always some transphobic, homophobic, sexist piece in the comments. And I just wanted, this video is sort of looking at the different franchises and the similarities between what's going on with their fan bases. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what your thoughts are. Now, Star Trek is obviously what this channel is about. In 2017, we had Star Trek Discovery, and people had a huge issue with how woke Star Trek Discovery was, with a African-American female captain, with a mixed-race crew, with trans characters, gay characters. People had issues, and it probably came out just before sort of the woke thing got big, but certainly went until it was huge. Now, if you look at Star Trek Discovery 2017, the main difference between this Star Trek and Star Trek 4 is an African-American lead and 2 gay characters, and later on trans characters. So this show has been called woke. Why do people keep putting woke ideology in my Star Trek? But if we take a look at the characters, so Discovery, black female lead, 2 gay characters, trans characters. When we look at a franchise like Doctor Who, for example, in 2017, Peter Capaldi filmed his last episode, and we got Jodie Whittaker as the first female Doctor. And did everyone hate that? Why are they pushing this woke agenda? Why? We look at Star Wars, and with Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and The Force Awakens. Why is there a female lead? Why isn't the main character more in the story? Whoa, what's going on here? These big 3 franchises having problems with people after they introduce any non-white characters. Now, Star Trek Discovery is unique amongst those Star Trek series, because if you look at Strange New Worlds, white male lead, you hear far less about Captain Pike and Strange New Worlds being shit compared to Star Trek Discovery, or Strange New Worlds trying to push some sort of woke agenda. With Doctor Who, we have the first English African lead in Ncuti Gatwa, and we're still getting complaints. What's woke? His doctor is bisexual, if not gay. He's flamboyant. He cries a lot, very emotional, sensitive. A new place for the Doctor, and they still have complaints about him. You look at Star Wars, and whenever we get a female-led Star Wars show, or a Star Wars show that has something different within it, we get complaints about it, and complaints and complaints. The Acolyte is an example. Marvel shows like She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, once again, female leads. And all I keep thinking is how does no one see the corresponding effect here, right? So the MCU, for a good portion of its history, its main leads were Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Black Widow. That's three white men, straight white men, 1 female. And the Hulk, white man turns green. And then when they started shifting away from those standard characters with like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel, Black Widow, non-white male leads, straight leads, suddenly the franchise is in fatigue. Everyone hates it. It's horrible. And I wouldn't say it's 100% that reason. It's the same with just with everything. With terms with Doctor Who, we had Jodie Whittaker come in, and she's a terrible actress. This is a terrible show. It's badly written. I would say that Doctor Who. I would say, and I would agree that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor wasn't the best written, but by her second series and her third series, the writing was pretty damn good, and I enjoyed it. In terms of Star Wars, if you look at the principal films, and you've got Rey Skywalker, the complaints were she learnt too fast, she was too perfect, she did all these things the right way. And what really bugs me is that so many men in action hero films are literally put in a situation and suddenly they're an action hero. And they're perfect and they do things else, but no one brings that up. And it frustrates me because, particularly with Star Trek and Doctor Who, because Star Trek has always had a political message, a progressive message, and that is the way Star Trek is. It's about moving forward. It's about accepting people for who they are. It's about celebrating diversity. The IDIC. Star Wars has always had a political twang to it. It's always been about the underdog fighting the big scary empire. An example being, this is how liberty falls, with thunderous applause. Literally the biggest political thing in the entirety of Star Wars. Doctor Who is another one. Plenty of social commentary, particularly during the Thatcher years and earlier years of the Doctor dealing with things. The new series in particular, Peter Capaldi punches out a guy for being racist. Captain Jack is a pansexual human being of whom kisses the Doctor and kisses Rose. We have a lesbian character in Bill Potts. We have all of that stuff going on in the new series. And then with the Ncuti Gatwa series, we get a Doctor who, to be fair, if he's been both genders, eventually he's going to come up gay. Eventually he's going to come up pan or bisexual. Like, eventually that's going to happen. And what it does, and people keep saying, oh, it takes away from the show. But actually, it's because of those differences that he is a more interesting Doctor. Because instead of constantly being one type of person, being treated one type of way, you can explore things such as racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia within the confines of this character who changes genders and personalities. And that is interesting. It's the same with Star Trek. Every iteration of Star Trek has had a progressive progressive storyline. You think about Riker falling in love with a non-binary alien, who Jonathan Frakes himself said, I would have rather that character been a male, it would have been more progressive. We have racial themes, we have transsexual themes in Jadzia Dax. Like, Star Trek has always been progressive, a little less direct, but now it's direct because these things shouldn't be an issue. It's been 30 years since Voyager. And that is horrific that we are still dealing with these issues. So my thoughts on this really bother me because people should be able to clearly see that the hatred for Doctor Who, Star Trek, the MCU, Star Wars began with, I'm going to say it, Big Ginger Nut Trump, and a whole heap of people who are just missing the point of the franchises. Like, look, Marvel, I get it. It was made for teenage boys, and now it's being made for adult people, but apparently adult people can't handle things. Doctor Who has always been progressive, so why is there such an issue with Doctor Who being progressive? Star Trek, it's by very nature is about being progressive. The original series was progressive. TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, progressive. Increasingly less in the TNG era. And then we get to the Discovery era, and we have lesbian, gay, trans characters within the storyline. And we get Picard with the lesbian characters in the storyline. And what we're seeing is these people who sort of miss the point of these franchises. Like, to be honest, Star Wars is about the little guy beating the big guy. The big guy is the government. The big guy is Trump and all of those oligarchs, those autocrats. It's about defeating those people, being small, being a militia. It's about Vietnam. It's about war. It's about politics. And no one in the Star Wars universe has ever mentioned difference, anything racial or tone like that. And it's impossible to really understand why that change has happened. I don't think the franchises, particularly Doctor Who and Star Trek, Star Wars as well, I don't think those three franchises have actually done anything hugely immersive. I think the fans have changed. I think people have changed. We are much more sensitive to... We're much more sensitive to difference now because our politics and our people who are inspirations to other people, your Andrew Tates, your Ben Shapiro, are preaching messages of hate and of bigotry and homophobia and transphobia and all of the phobias, and people are listening to them, that they are judging it through a different lens, a lens of bigotry. And an example being Elon Musk, the great first President Elon Musk and Lady Trump, pushed the anti-trans agenda, but it is all to hide the goal of money. And people don't see it because they only see what they want to see. So while I'm looking at these franchises, I don't think it's the franchises that have changed. Star Trek, certainly in terms of how it's directed and the action and stuff like that, has changed because times have changed. Star Wars is the same. Times has changed. You have to move forward. I don't think the sequel trilogy moved forward enough, but it moved forward. I think Doctor Who has consistently, progressively tried to be bigger and bigger. And what we have is a group of people who are highly influential telling us to be feminine is bad, to be gay is bad, to be happy with yourself in whatever body you're in is bad, and how these shows are forcing an agenda down your neck. That is art. That is entertainment. They are all filled with human biases and human feelings, emotions, thoughts, beliefs. But somewhere along the line, us as humans have changed. Us as humans are different. We are at a point where the internet and social media have shifted that progressive motive and allowed for those elements that were fringe to become more popular. And it is a scary thing. If you have any discussions on this or any thoughts on these franchises, tell me whether you like these franchises. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I've been Trek Trav, and this has just been a rant.